Yeah, that I think the Packers jump out in that regard as well. You look at the strength of schedule remaining, and the NFC North teams have four of the five toughest remaining strengths of schedule. It's just a very tough schedule that the NFC North has to play this season, and so this is a really good spot to use the Packers. We talked about this back in week 2 when you burned the Packers. The Packers played the Lions that week at home, and we knew that there were going to be, as good as the Packers are, and I do believe this is a Super Bowl contending team, when we're talking about Survivor, because of their strength of schedule, the opportunities to use them were not going to be as abundant as they were for the Rams, who have a much weaker schedule, as they were for the Cardinals, who have a much weaker schedule for the rest of the season. And so that is something I think that we want to think about with the Packers this week as well. You look at the next couple of weeks, DVR, the Packers play the Cardinals and the Chiefs, both on the road. You are not going to be using the Packers in either of those weeks. The week after that, they get Seattle at home, and that makes them usable in that spot. But because of that, that is why the Packers are my one true pick for this week. In our pool, I do still have the Cardinals available. I have burned the Rams. I have burned the Buccaneers, so I can't use either of those popular picks. I do have the Cardinals, but I'm going to go away from them. Cardinals aren't losing to the Texans. Cardinals are not losing this game to the Texans. That has nothing to do with my thinking whatsoever. But I know that I'm not going to use the Packers for at least 3 more weeks. And so that's why I'm going to use the Packers now. Feel very good about them taking care of business against Washington. You see those unis that they're wearing, by the way, for this week? See those throwbacks they're wearing?
Yeah, they're among the better throwbacks the Packers wear.
They look very nice. Love those jerseys. I know they look a little bit like Oregon, a little bit like Baylor, whatever. The Packers obviously got there first, wearing those back in the 50s. I really like the look of those jerseys. I think they're going to look very good cruising past the Washington football team on Sunday. I like the Packers to cover the 9.5 for what it's worth, but that's not really what we're talking about here. My one true pick for this week, I will go ahead, use the Packers, feel very comfortable with them. And again, we're talking about shades of gray when we're looking at these top, I would say at least 4 teams. I'm not quite sure I would put the Patriots in that. I think shades of gray when we're talking about win probability among the top 4 this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I had the Packers, this is a great time to use them. The schedule is absolutely brutal. The next time the Packers are going to be even above 50% for win probability is week 10. It's only 55%. This is according to the Mike Clay projections over at ESPN. The next time they're going to be anywhere close to a 75% win probability, week 14. Your pool might not even be happening in week 14. Yes. So, yes, use them while you can. And every single game that the Cardinals play between now and then, they have at least a 70% win probability, just by comparison, just to give you an idea of just the difference between those two teams right now. So I'm with you. I think the only thing in this matchup that gives me some pause, occasionally we've seen the Packers struggle, when teams can rush for and get pressure, that's one of the few recipes that can give the Packers offense some fits. But Washington has been so bad in the secondary, even with the question marks with the secondary pass catchers in the Packers offense, it seems like it's going to be a relatively easy day through the air for Aaron Rodgers and company, and it's going to be really difficult for Washington to keep pace with that offense.
Yeah, it's one of the bigger surprises, I think, of this 2021 season is just how far this Washington defense has regressed. I think at the very least, we had reason to believe they would be as good as they were last year. And, they won that NFC East last year. Obviously, it wasn't a great division, but that's no fault of that defense, as that defense was among the best in the league. They had a championship defense, really, and then just a pretty bad offense. And so that's really what was hurting this team a season ago. I don't think that's really going to be something that we have to worry about for the Packers, because that defense has just regressed in a major, major way this year. And it's been one of the big surprises of this 2021 season. Who you got for your one true pick this week, DVR?
Unfortunately, it's the Patriots. And I say unfortunately because I don't have a ton of confidence in this team, even though they held their own against Tampa Bay a few weeks ago. They certainly gave Dallas a scare on Sunday. I just look at this team and I think, okay, the times I want to use them when they're at home, when they're facing a rookie quarterback, or when they're facing a team whose coach is going to get fired. Well, at least the Jets, they have the coaching part figured out.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Rookie quarterback going to New England, yeah, that's probably not going to work out. Even with the extra time to prepare, I'm really not that worried about the Jets. They're a bad team. And, last week I think I was waffling on the Colts-Texans and the stability there because of everything with that Texans team, the veteran core that they have in place, especially on their defense. And Davis Mills showed us a little something 2 weeks ago. Well, that all fell apart. I think we kind of saw, yes, the Texans are as bad as the models have led us to believe. I'm surprised that the very same models are as high on the Patriots as they are. It maybe gives me a little more confidence in this team than I would have otherwise. Seeing them as a top 12 team in the Massey Peabody power rankings. That was a surprise when I opened that up for this week. So I do think there's a big gap between these two teams, coaching-wise. Belichick should have enough to keep Zach Wilson very confused. Even that extra time to prepare is just not going to be enough, and I think it's going to be a boring, grinded-out sort of game. Might be the kind of survivor game you're sweating midway through the fourth quarter, but I do think the Patriots hold on and actually pick up another win here this week.
We've already seen these two teams get together. It was back in week 2, and it was exactly the game you're describing. A boring, grinded out, pretty simple victory for the Patriots, a game that they ended up winning 25-6 against the Jets on the road. And, we obviously don't want to just draw straight from one result and be like, oh, they won 25-6 the first time. Why is it going to be any different the second time? But this is a sort of team that the Patriots should control. It's a team that doesn't really threaten you too much with what they do down the field. The defense really isn't anything that's going to scare you too much. And we saw Mac Jones start to open things up last week against the Cowboys. It was easily the best game of his pro career to date. 229 yards, threw for almost 11 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns in that game against the Cowboys, a game that the Patriots very well could have won. And the Cowboys end up winning it in overtime, but the Patriots played well in that game. Probably their best offensive game. You got a great performance out of Mac Jones. You got a complete game out of the entire offense with Damian Harris having himself a very nice game. Ramondre Stevenson chipping in ways that maybe they can open up the offense a little bit, ways that they typically use James White. They were using Ramondre Stevenson. They've been looking for that sort of replacement in the offense ever since James White had to go on IR, and Stevenson maybe can be that guy for them the rest of the way. It just doesn't – it's really not a threatening game. And that's what we're getting at here. Like, you got to – you're not going to feel threatened whatsoever if you go with the Patriots, I don't think. And so this is a spot where if you are trying to keep the really good teams, the great teams, the truly great teams for the rest of the season, I can see going with the Patriots. That's going to be your one true pick. I will ask you this, though, before we wrap this part of it up. If you had one of these other teams available, because you have used Arizona, Tampa, the Rams, and Green Bay in our pool on this show, if you had one available, would you go with them over the Patriots, or would you still be trying to save them and go with the Patriots here?
I would definitely burn the Packers if I still had them left, because I have more confidence in them given the circumstances. I think with Mac Jones, yeah, he's completing a high percentage of his passes, but he is still turning the ball over a little bit. That leaves the door open for you to lose to a bad team, and that's that's the added risk. That's why the line is not as big in this game as it is for the Packers at home against Washington.